What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by the Real Estate Cheat Code. I have Beth Hennick with me with the Hennick Group at Howard Hanna. And I'm super excited. Beth, thanks so much for jumping on today and, talking with us and just sharing your story of how you got into the business.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And I know we were kind of talking a little bit beforehand, and I always, I told you that I always enjoy these conversations. Not that I don't enjoy all of the conversations, but these ones where, we're social media friends. We haven't interacted before on a more personal level. I love these conversations because I get to know you and get to understand kind of where you came from and your journey to the business. And, this is all about the Tell Me More podcast is all about just showing other agents out there that we all come from different walks of life. We all have different career paths, and we all built our businesses differently, which is why I do more of this type of interview process instead of the top listing agent, top social media agent, top, that just got old to me. So I'm super excited to have you on, Beth, and to share your story.
Thank you.
So we always start with growing up. And what I found with interviewing successful agents in our marketplace is there's always, either events, key decisions, something happening within their life that has eventually led them obviously down the path to real estate, but also had a big impact on their business. So for you, what was life like for you growing up? Did you have interests, hobbies, anything along those lines?
I did. I grew up in small town Zanesville, Ohio, an hour east of Columbus. Great childhood, great life, but from a very young age, I have always been the person that I've never been afraid to talk to people, no matter who it is. I was always the kid in the neighborhood knocking on your door, selling something. And at the age of, I believe it was 9, I don't know, you're young, so I don't know if you know who Jerry Lewis is. But Jerry Lewis had the telethon from the 60s, starting in the 60s till I think the 90s until he passed away. But every Labor Day, Jerry Lewis would have his telethon. And I won 4 years in a row. I collected more money than any other kid. I was really proud of it. I was even on the Jerry Lewis telethon.
Oh, wow.
So it started from a very, and it's funny because I remember those days, and I know this sounds weird, but I can still tell you some of the people that slammed the door in my face.
Really?
And the people that gave. And at 10 years old, I remember walking into Wendy's and different corporation at 10 and asking to talk to the manager and asking them to donate to muscular dystrophy for Jerry's kids. And after a while, they knew me. After a year or two would go by, here she comes, get the checkbook ready. I was never afraid to ask for it.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved everything about it. And so I think that was really, and I didn't, you don't know because you're a kid,
Right.
but I loved everything about it. I stood in front of Kmart for hours on end, just collecting money and talking to people. So, that kind of led me down. I think that was really my first, taste of sales, really.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, after graduating from high school, I went to Pittsburgh, went to school, went out to Minneapolis, lived there for a while, came back, and I got into property management. And property management was probably the number one reason that I got into real estate. I worked. Go ahead.
I'm curious, from the young age of, not being obviously the love of, talking to people helped, but, having the courage to go up to strangers and, not being afraid of no. Was that something that was just natural, or did you grow up in a family of salespeople, entrepreneurs, where they encouraged that type of stuff? Because when I'm interviewing people, and it was kind of this way when I got into the business. It was like, you got to take the disc profile test, and if you're not a high D or a high I, you're going to struggle in this business. And
Yes.
I don't believe that at all. I'm an SC. I should be more of an admin.
Yes.
And I've had a great career, and real estate has blessed me with a lot of things. And but for you growing up, was that already the environment you were in, or was it just natural ability that you had?
I think it was both because I did, from hearing my mother, like, I'm my father all the way, So I did learn that from my father. And yes, yes. So it's always kind of been like that. I'm totally different from anybody, my brother's different than I am. So I
Yeah,
definitely got my father's gene on the way that goes. But to me, it just came natural. And I kind of feel like that with salespeople. I feel like you can only teach somebody so much, but you either have it or you don't.
yeah,
I mean, you do. I mean, so you might be great in paperwork and this, that, and the other, but if you can't talk to people,
yeah,
really talk to people, then you're not going to make it as a realtor. You
yeah,
have to be, because there's, as you know, there's all different personalities. There's, you got the shy personality, you got the overwhelming personality, you got the businessman, you have to be able to talk to all these different people in different ways.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a little bit of both.
What do you think the lack of the rejection, the fear? A lot of agents get paralyzed, and I think part of this is just human, right? Human natures.
Mhm.
None of us want to be rejected. None of us want to feel shut down. But
Yeah.
what was it for you that you didn't really have that fear?
Yeah, I mean, I still don't like being rejected. I don't like to lose, but I still realize that, it's a playing field. And, I mean, there's a million realtors out there, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose.
Yeah,
So, you do have to have thick skin in the job we do. But it does hurt. Sometimes, you look out your, bedroom window and all of a sudden you see a sign, from another brokerage and you go, wait a minute, what just happened? Weren't we
yeah,
friends for 10 years? Weren't we, and I'm not saying my neighbor did that. I'm just saying
yeah,
this stuff happens. So it is tough sometimes, but you just have to move forward. And as a kid, like I said, as a kid, I got rejected a lot. You know, when I was standing out there holding that can, a lot of people didn't put money in the can. You know,
yeah,
and I was just like, okay, it never
yeah,
really bothered me. It really, as a kid, it didn't really bother me.
yeah.
You just go on.
I feel from just talking with a lot of people over the last 2 years now that, and just agents in general that I know just from coaching circles and masterminds and things like that, the most successful people still have those same fears, right? Maybe it's starting something new, but the difference is they run it through that filter a lot faster, and they don't let that stop them, right?
Mhm.
Whereas some agents and some people, they run it through that filter and it just keeps psyching them out, right? A
Yeah,
successful agent,
yeah,
if they want to start door knocking, or if they want to try internet leads, or it's just something that's maybe outside of the way they've built their business,
yeah.
they're still going to have some of those same fears, but they're just
They
going to
are.
run it through that filter, right? And say, hey, I'm not letting this stop me, and I'm still going. I'm still going to execute. I'm still
Right.
going to implement, and I'm going to learn as we go.
Right. And I think what agents need to realize too are they're just people. People are just people. And they just want to be talked to. They just want to be, they want an honest opinion. I mean, I'm the realtor that goes out. If you're looking for a realtor that's going to come out and tell you everything you want to hear, and your house is worth $1 million and everything's great, I'm probably not your girl. Because when I go out, I tell people the truth. And it's not what they want to hear, it's what they need to hear.
Mm,
Because I'm here to do a job and to get, obviously the most money for the less amount of
Right.
time. That is our job. But I would say the majority of the people respect that, and they like that, and they want that. So, you just have to remember that people are just people. Don't let people intimidate you, no matter how much money they have, how big the house is, who they are, what they do. They're just people. And they might be a brain surgeon, they might be an attorney, but you know what? They're not realtors. They don't know what we know. They're relying
Exactly.
on us. So, that's what we bring to them.
And for maybe the agent that's listening that struggles with some of those hard conversations, right? One of the best things is to just ask up front, and it could be like, hey, Beth, is it okay if I tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear? Right. And honestly, that is a filter. Like I tell agents all the time, like there's filters that I want to have people go through, and that's going to tell me if they're seriously motivated and ready to do something in real estate or not. And for me, if they tell me, and that if I ask, hey, is it okay with you to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear? And they tell me no, well, then red flag, right? Filter,
It is. It
maybe they're
is.
not as serious. Maybe they're not as ready. Maybe they're not as realistic. And I know there's agents out there. I struggle sometimes with those hard conversations, right? They're not
Yes.
fun, but we're going into a market where if agents don't set proper expectations up front from the buy side and from the seller side, your clients are going to get frustrated and they're going to start firing people. They're going to start
Absolutely.
firing you because you didn't set clear expectations on price or on condition or on what they need to do to get their home ready to sell because you just
Absolutely.
wanted the listing.
Absolutely. Yep, yep. Don't just go in and, you know, I've taken over, to be the second listing agent on the listing is not a bad thing
Yeah.
sometimes. But, a lot of times when I'll go in, I'll ask the homeowner, I said, who set this price? Well, I did. Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Why did you set the price? Well, I told the agent what I thought it was worth and they went with it. You know, there's not anything wrong with telling the homeowner they're wrong and this is
Yeah.
why, and
Yeah.
showing them the documentation, because we have what they don't have. We have all the sources. So I that's happened to me so many times. So you just have to be honest with the
Yeah.
homeowner, and either they take your advice or they don't. But if they don't, and you overlist it, listen, we all know each other. You and I didn't know each other personally, but we knew who each other.
Yeah.
You don't want to, number one, get a bad reputation as a realtor out there.
Hmm.
All that realtor will just take anything just to get a listing, because that's what happens. You want to have a good reputation out there. You want to, when I submit an offer, when my name's on the contract, I want the other agent to go, oh wow, seller, this was written by Beth Hennick. I feel good. She's a good realtor. That's what we do. We do as good as realtors. We look at that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. So you got into the property management coming back to Central Ohio. Um, did you have interest in real estate at that time, or was that just kind of like a job that was kind of available and you thought it was going to be interesting and fun, and that it was just as simple as that?
Well, it was interesting and fun, and I love my job. I stayed there for 10 years. I managed 17 properties throughout Ohio, Indiana, and Florida,
Wow.
and I managed the manager. I loved my job. I loved the people. I loved everything about it. And then one day, my boss said to me, he was a very smart man. He came from Procter and Gamble. I really looked up to him. He said, Beth, it's time for you to be a realtor. I didn't even, real estate wasn't even, on my radar. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, Beth, you train all these people. Everybody that walks up the sidewalk, you rent to them. And you get a deposit from everybody. He said, you need to sell real estate. You're still going to be providing housing for people, but just on a larger scale. And because of who he was and what I felt about him, I said, okay, so what do I do? So next day I called Hondros. I got the information and I started taking classes and got my license, and the rest is history.
What
25 years
year?
later, here I am.
I was gonna say, what year did you get your license?
98.
Okay.
Yep,
So,
yep.
and so you did property management for 10 years before that, or at the kind of the same time did you
Well,
transition in? Or?
I didn't quit my day job because, as you know, there's no money unless you sell something. So, I stayed probably about 2 more years. I slowly went part-time, and then,
Yeah.
once I made the big sale, it let me, quit completely. And yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the hardest things I think in our industry is to make that transition, right?
Mhm.
Because here's the reality is most of the time a real estate agent, it's not the first career choice. It's second, third, fourth, fifth, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are coming from secure job. I'll put that in air quotes just because I think the most secure job is your own job, the one that you create for yourself, because you're the only one that can hire and fire yourself, right?
That's right.
But that transition period is so tough sometimes for people to take that leap of faith, because
It
our
is.
parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, it was always go get a 9 to 5 and get paid every other Friday, and that was the American dream of living, right? And
Right.
in real estate, I truly tell people, if you believe in your work ethic, truly, if you have the self-awareness and to be really honest with yourself and say, hey, I do have the work ethic, I have the drive, and all of those things, you'll be super successful. I'm not saying that you can't if you don't have those things. It just may
Right.
be more up and down, right?
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that either, right? It's just get used to the roller coaster,
Right.
and and then that becomes the
Exactly.
comfort zone. But so, Beth, walk us through, obviously property management, there's some correlation there, right?
Yes.
Following up and all of the, meeting new people and sales
Right.
processes and all those things. But take us through your first couple of years in the business, as a real estate agent, and how did you focus on growing the real estate agent portion of those first couple years?
Well, what happened is, as you know, when you go through Hondros or any other real estate college, when you can't sit for your exam until you have selected a brokerage. So,
Hmm.
they tell you to go to all these different brokerages, and um, I was so lucky and fortunate to be hand chosen by a lady by the name of Mossy Knowles at Knowles Realty in Bexley. Mossy hand chose her people, and we were small, but we were mighty. And in 98, Knowles Realty pretty much controlled the Bexley area. And she was the best. I mean, I believe her desk still sits in the board of realtors. Attorneys would call Mossy and ask for advice. I just felt so honored. So Mossy took me under her wing and taught me real estate.
Mm.
And so she taught me everything she knew. And 4 years later, she passed.
Mm.
So that's when I went to HER, which was just across the street in Bexley. Actually, I went downtown to HER and did commercial for
Oh,
about a
wow.
year, which I'm glad I did because, I know more about commercial than the regular residential agent, but that wasn't my cup of tea, but I tried it. So I came back to residential. Um, so I was with HER for 20 some years. And then, as you know, Howard Hanna bought
Yeah.
out HER last year. So, um, and that's pretty much it.
When you decided to make that leap of faith and get your real estate license, and I'm assuming when you're doing property management, you're probably getting paid, hourly or a salary or something along those lines. becoming a real estate agent is a different ball game, right? 100% commission.
Yes.
You don't have the security, right? Did you have supporters? Did you have doubters? Did people think you were crazy for getting into real estate at that time, or?
No, I've never had any doubters. Everybody was always supportive of me. Of course, my parents always, no matter what my crazy idea has always been my whole life, they would back me. So um, everybody was behind me. I never had anybody. I've actually never had a job I didn't like. Like,
Mm,
I'm a people person.
yeah.
Everything that I've ever done, I've been really successful at it and liked the people. And, you know, I've, I've never had a problem doing that. Um, so
So, so did you, obviously following Mossy and her footsteps for those first 4 years, um, did you decide that you're going to build your business through community and through sphere of influence? Kind of, if she was controlling kind of the Bexley area, right?
yeah,
That takes a very intentional type marketing strategy.
yeah,
And I just had Raina Morgan on yesterday, and she's doing kind of the same thing within her business of focusing within a certain zip code. Not saying she doesn't do other zip codes, but really the majority of her business is coming from a very specific zip code. Did you kind of take that same approach, or did you kind of expand out and do your business a little bit differently?
well, kind of yes and no. Like back in '98, things were different back then. We had the internet, but we still had the big MLS books. Um, and I still remember the first day I walked in Knowles Realty after I got my license. I walked in, you pass the test, you're licensed, right? So I walk in and Mossy said, okay, go sell something. Okay. What do I do? How do I sell? You're licensed, but you don't know what to do. You have this
Yeah.
license. And so at this time, I don't even know if they still have them. They had what's called the crisscross, the big books
Mm,
that I sat down at the table, and I lived in the Eastmore area at that time. And she said, work your neighborhood where you live. And at that time, you could cold call anybody where you can't
yeah.
now, but at that time
Yeah.
you could. So, she gave me a script to read, and I did. And, she said, never ask for the direct sale. Never say, hey, do you want to sell your house? Because they're going to tell you no. Never ask, So she had the script for me to read. And so the one guy I called, I said, I have a buyer looking. Do you know anybody in the area? And he said, well, I don't know about anybody else, but I want to sell my house. So I'm like, oh, okay. So he's like, yeah, you can come on over. So it was pretty quick. And then I started holding open houses and everything. And of course, back in the day, I knocked on every door in the neighborhood still,
Mm,
um, you knock on a door and the next thing you know, you're sitting down at someone's table eating pie, and that's how a deal happens.
yeah.
And that's what I did. I knocked on lots of doors. I called out the crisscross, and that's how I started my,
Yeah.
sphere, as you would put it. And then over the years, as you make your sales, they go into your contact list. And then, you send them the birthday cards and the Christmas cards and the calendars and and it just builds from there. So
Yeah.
that's really how I started.
You know, I always say real estate's simple but hard, right? It's simple in what we need to be doing every single day, which is just having real estate conversations. It's simple in what you just explained because it always comes down to people need to know you, like you, trust you, right? And, as a real estate agent, you want to figure out, how do I want to make that happen? And there's so many different ways to make that happen. You could door knock, you could do open houses, right? You could call out of a phone book if you wanted to. You could do internet leads, you could do social media in today's
Right.
world. But, if you're struggling within your business, it always comes down to, do they know me? How do I get them to like me? And then how do I get them to trust me when it comes to their real estate needs? And the third part, the trust, obviously just takes time, or
It
it takes you understanding and being highly educated on real estate, or in your case, right, it may be the Bexley area. I'm the local expert, right? I know the houses, I know the streets, I know the difference between over here versus over there.
right.
So I love that you just explained that, because it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter how it happens, which is why I love bringing, guests like you on. You built your business completely 100%, 180 opposite of how I built my business, right?
Mhm.
In some regards. So I love that, because it doesn't matter what it is. It still comes down to those principles.
It really does. It really does. You treat people right, and people know when you're fake. I have so many people saying, "Oh gosh, I think because I think all these shows make it so glamorous.
Yeah.
Oh HGTV, it's not all, it's not all glamour. Um, but you have to just be real. You have to be yourself. You have to be honest. And I think when people come to me and say, "I want to be a realtor," because they think we make all this money, they think you know, if you're getting into real estate for that reason, don't do it, because
Mm,
you're not going to make it.
yeah.
You have to, you know, you have to truly want to help people buy and sell houses. And this just happened to me 4 weeks ago. I sold a little condo, $60,000. My seller called me later and she said, "Beth, after reading your website, I can't believe you helped me. I see all these big houses you sell. Why did you spend so much time with me?" And that it really touches me, because there are some agents that wouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
But to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These people need help, and we're there to help them. No
Yeah.
matter who they are, what they need, we need to help them. So, to me, it doesn't matter how big, how small. you know um I like to help people, and I like to help new agents. And you had mentioned that earlier about helping new agents. I am in an office, I'm in a big office, and most realtors don't help the other agents, new agents, because you're helping the enemy, so to speak. Who's to say 6 months from now we're not going up against the same, we're going up against the same seller down and telling you all my tricks, right?
Yeah.
And what if you get it and I don't? Then I'm going to be upset. So that's, the whole thing. But I'm not like that. When there's new agents come in, I make a point to introduce myself. I say, "Hey, I'm upstairs. If you need anything, come ask me. I'll help you." They do. They come up.
Yeah.
And when they get a sale, they come, and I love it when they come into my office. They're like, "Guess what just happened?" And I love that. I
Yeah.
love to see them succeed.
Yeah. For me, it's a different, I remember, getting into the business and having those first closings, and, every closing special, but those first couple handful, that validation, right. That you
Yeah.
can do it, all of, that was a different high. Right. And for me, when I'm able to help an agent typically leave a career or a job or a situation that they don't love, because the majority, I mean, unlike there's only two jobs, I guess, and they were both high school, college, that I didn't love. Um, but the rest of it, I love what I do,
Yeah.
and to be able to see someone leave a situation that they don't like or that they want to get away from in their career, and can have a huge impact on not only just their life but their family's life, the future of their family. That's a different high. That takes me back to my first couple of deals, and that high for me, I don't know about for you, but that doesn't get old.
It doesn't get old. And I have no problem getting up and going to work every day.
Yeah.
I mean, as a realtor, we have the convenience. I can sit on a cruise ship and do some of my job if I want to. I enjoy going to the office. I think it's important to be around other realtors to see what's going on, to bounce things off of other realtors. Um, I just love it. I love my job, and I will never ever do anything else ever.
Well, and you also mentioned something, obviously HGTV and all the shows, make our job look a little bit easier from someone getting into the business, but as well from the consumer standpoint, right? You
Yes.
know, and I always ask agents, why real estate? Like, you could go make $100,000, $150,000, 75,000, whatever the number is. You could go make that in any career,
Mhm.
right? For the most part, especially
Mhm.
if you're your own business owner and all that. But I want to know why real estate, because for me, and you said this, you have to fall in love with the process. You have to fall in
You
love with
do.
the people. You got to fall in love with the idea that you're helping someone, buy their largest asset or potentially sell their largest asset, and guide them through that process. And if you don't like that part, because it's not smooth, it's not easy, it's not fun,
Yes.
and
Yes.
if you don't love the ups and downs and the challenges of that, real estate will eat you up and spit you out.
It will. It totally will. And I think a lot of these agents get in and don't make it because they see, you know, I've had a couple people, like, you know, they see they have sort of house themselves. They look at the closing statement and, oh my gosh, look what my realtor made.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll go get my license. And then after their license, they're like, wow, I didn't realize I'm going to have to do this, this, and this. I
Yeah.
didn't realize it was going to be so tough. I didn't realize, well, it's not easy. The general public doesn't see what we do after, we just don't put a house on the MLS and cross our fingers and hope the guy should sell. Granted, there are some realtors out there that do that, but the good realtors, they don't do
Yeah.
that, you know.
Yeah.
And then of course, the negotiation, you have to be able to negotiate. If you're not a good negotiator, I look at my clients' money like my money. So,
Mm.
and you have to be able to do that because the bottom line is their money and what you're putting in their pocket. So they can do whatever they need to do, for their well-being.
Yeah.
So, and that's what it's all about. It's about helping the client and, putting money in their pocket and helping them. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people get into it for the wrong reasons. I think they think it's easier than it is, and it's not.
Yeah. Beth, when did you decide, in your career that, you wanted to grow a team and have a team?
I actually didn't decide to have a team. Actually, the Pam that's with me now, love Pam. Pam and I worked together. It got to the point where, I still have kids in high school. So, before I had kids, it wouldn't be anything. You drive by my office and see my car out there at 9 to 10 o'clock at night, all I had to do was work. But now I would rather be with my kids in the evening.
Yeah.
So, I would pass out leads to her. And then it finally just get to a point that we were working so closely together and we worked so well together that we were like, I guess let's just be a team. And then, I had Jenna as an assistant before that. So Jenna, she's the glue that keeps us all together.
We all need
And then I have another
one.
girl, Lily.
We all need a
She's,
Jenna.
huh? Do you
So we
know
all
Jenna?
need a Jenna. Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah. And and then I have Lily. She's younger, she's aggressive, she's ready to go out there and conquer the world. So again, to me, it's not, you know, my goal is not to have a huge team, it's to
Yeah.
have the best team. Kind of like the philosophy Mossy had at Knowles.
Yeah.
We weren't the biggest, but we were the best. So that's kind of how that happened. I didn't seek out a team. It just
Yeah.
kind of happened.
Yeah. I think you made a great point there. I mean, it's, the one thing with that, right, is as an agent, as you produce more business, it's hard for you to handle all of that and provide the level of service. And I think that's one of the biggest downfalls for agents in our business as well, is they're afraid if they're not touching it, if they're not involved, if their clients don't get them, that they're not going to get the service. And I promise you that it's probably the opposite. You can probably deliver better service, better communication, better experience when you can bring people on board that you taught, or maybe that you had an impact on how things are done, and your clients are going to be happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally believe that. I mean, 100%, 100%.
I want to kind of pivot gears and now, really talk about the future of where you're looking to go, with your business, build things. What's something that you're looking to accomplish in the next 12 months?
That's pretty short term. The next 12 months, I think that Columbus is such a growing city. Like we're one of the fastest growing cities in the nation right now. And with all these big corporations coming in, the Intels, the Amazon, um, me being a certified relocation specialist, um, not only do I work through Relo, but I also work one-on-one with corporations. Clients look to me for answers.
Hmm.
So I want to stay on top of exactly what's going on, because when I have buyers and sellers ask me, hey, should I list now? And the price is going up or going down, or, everyone seems to have their own theory of, I'm not going to list now. I'm going to wait till Intel gets done, because then I'm going to get twice the amount and this and that and the other. There's so many people with, they all have their own story. I need to know what exactly is going on. So my thing within this next year is make sure I'm on top of everything that's going on with corporations, so I can, help
Yeah.
my clients make the best decision.
Yeah. Do you have any 5-year goals? Anything that you're really looking to accomplish within the next 5 years?
I think it's just, back to the team. I want to make sure that all my values and everything that I do gets instilled in them, and they, because they represent me when they go out there.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that they have the best tools and the best technology, and we are the best as we can possibly be to represent our buyers and sellers out there. I just want to focus on that.
Yeah. What's a legacy goal of yours? What's a goal that you want to hit when you're no longer here?
I mean, I always tell people, listen, we talked about that a little bit before, when a contract comes in, when you're, it, like if you see, I'm not going to mention any lenders, but go, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with this lender. I know it's going to go south. We all know who all the players are. If I died today, I would like to think that I would go down as, oh, she was a great realtor. That's
Mm,
all. That's all I would
yeah.
want.
Yeah. Last question for you, Beth, and I really do appreciate you coming on here, sharing your story. I know you're bringing value to my community and those that are listening and watching this. Um, what's one piece of advice that maybe you received? Obviously, you had a great mentor. When you first, one, in property management, two, when you got into the business, right? What's one piece of advice that maybe you received that had a lasting impact? What's maybe a piece of advice that you always give out when agents ask you?
Okay. Well, the first thing that Mossy told me after, she knew my personality, she said, just be yourself.
Mm,
Don't go in there and try to act like you're somebody else. And I always remembered that. So, don't try to act like you're smarter than you are. Don't try to act like you know more than you do. Be yourself. People will go with you because they like you.
yeah,
So, I got that question a lot when Howard Hanna took over. People would say, oh, are you going to lose your clients, or this, that, and the other? I don't care if it says Joe's Crab Shack above my head. My clients are going with me because it's
yeah,
me, and they know I do a great job for them.
yeah.
So just be yourself.
Do you think agents overthink that? who they work, the brokerage that they're with.
What do you mean?
I mean, I agree with you. It doesn't matter if Joe's Crab Shack is above my head, because the clients are always going to work with me.
Right.
Right. And I think sometimes, when agents are looking at their business and, what other opportunities are out there, they discount brokerages because it may be smaller, right? It may not have the bells and the whistles, but it may be the thing that actually they need for where their business is at that point in time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you just have to go with what works best for you.
Yeah.
And, if you don't feel like you're getting the guidance, if you don't feel, don't be talked and don't be double talked by a lot of, oh, let's go have coffee. Let's sit down, because I think a lot of the newer agents, oh, I'm going to get 100%. I've seen one of my dear friends left and went to another brokerage a couple years ago because they said, oh, we're going to get this great lead program. It's 100%. Da, da, da. They went over there. I looked at her numbers. She hadn't sold anything in 2 years. Well, 100% of nothing is nothing.
Yeah.
So, just don't get caught up, because that's their job. They're recruiting because that's their job, to recruit. So just be careful. And at the end of the day, there's no magic bullet. It's all about you. I think people are looking for the magic bullet. They jump around to brokerages because they think it's going to be better. Just focus on yourself, your clients, your selling, your marketing, and what you're doing, and you'll be successful.
Couldn't say it any better, and I agree with you 1,000%. Beth, thanks again. Those that are watching, Beth's phone number is down below at the bottom of the screen. If you're someone that's thinking about buying, selling, investing in real estate here in Central Ohio, please reach out to her. If you're a real estate agent and you just maybe connected with her story and maybe you want to pick her brain, ask questions, please reach out to her, Beth. But for those that are listening in on the audio version of the podcast, what is the best way for someone to connect with you?
You know what? Just call me on my cell phone. I'm always available. 614-207-2484.
Beth, thanks again. If I can repay you in any way and help you out in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here to help you any way I can.
Thank you so much, John.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.